She was trembling, her wrists bound with rough rope, her eyes cast down to hide the storm of humiliation that churned inside her. Elena had grown up in a noble household of the Spanish frontier, where her father traded wheat with settlers and guarded their lands with cold authority. But now, she was nothing more than a bargain, a girl sold to an Apache warrior for the price of a single sack of grain. The betrayal cut deeper than any blade could have, for the one who had made the exchange was her own father. His pride, his disdain for her disobedience, had turned her into currency. And yet, in that moment when her fate was sealed, Elena vowed that even if she had lost her freedom, she would not lose her dignity. The Apache who claimed her stood tall and silent, his dark eyes sharp as an eagle's, yet unreadable. His name, whispered among the fearful settlers, was Nayati, meaning he who walks with the spirit. He was said to be fierce in battle, merciless when wronged, and loyal only to his people. Elena expected cruelty, expected to be broken like an object, her will shattered to prove her worthlessness. But Nayati only untied her hands, his fingers rough yet strangely gentle, and motioned for her to follow him. No words passed between them that day as they left her father's land, the heavy sack of wheat slung across his shoulder as though it were nothing. The journey was long, through valleys painted with wildflowers and skies stretching endlessly above. Elena kept her distance, her heart trapped between fear and defiance. She thought of running, yet something in Nayati's quiet strength held her back. He did not treat her as a prisoner, though she walked behind him with no choice. At night, he offered her a share of fire-roasted food, gesturing for her to eat. Suspicion burned in her chest, but hunger triumphed over pride, and she ate in silence while he kept watch under the stars. Days turned into weeks, and Elena's heart warred against itself. This was not the monster she had been told to fear. He spoke little, but when he did, his words carried weight, like stones placed carefully in the river of conversation. The earth feeds us. The wind teaches us. The fire reminds us of our ancestors, he once told her, his gaze fixed on the dancing flames. She listened, saying nothing, but those words rooted themselves in her mind. One evening, while gathering water by the stream, Elena slipped on the rocks, tumbling into the cold current. Panic seized her as the water pulled her under, but strong arms lifted her back to air. Nayati's grip was firm, his breath ragged as he pulled her to safety. She coughed and gasped, her body shivering, but his hands remained steady as he wrapped her in a blanket made of animal hide. "You are safe," he murmured. And for the first time, Elena looked into his eyes not with fear, but with a glimmer of fragile trust. Yet beneath the trust lay an unanswered question: why had he accepted her, bought her with wheat? What purpose did she serve to him? The answer came unexpectedly. When they reached his village, Elena braced for scorn, for chains of servitude. But instead, the people treated her not as property, but as a guest of their chief's son. Nayati's mother, a woman of kind eyes and silvered hair, placed her hand gently on Elena's shoulder and said, "Here, you are not a slave. You are under the protection of my son. That makes you one of us." Confusion and relief clashed within Elena's heart. Her father had discarded her as worthless, yet among strangers, she was given honor she did not expect. She began to see the rhythms of their life, the weaving of baskets, the laughter of children, the songs sung to the moon. Slowly, her fear unraveled into curiosity. She learned words in their language, small fragments at first, then sentences that painted the world differently. Nayati taught her how to grind maize, how to follow tracks in the soil, how to listen not just with ears but with spirit. Still, she wondered why he had chosen her. The answer came on a night of full moon, when Nayati finally spoke the truth. "I knew who you were before your father traded you," he said quietly, his gaze steady on her face. "Years ago, when your family's land was struck by drought, you came with bread and water for the hungry, even when your father forbade it. You gave to a woman and child from my people, though you did not know their names. That woman was my sister. You saved her life." The memory rushed back to Elena, a desperate mother, a starving child, her own secret defiance as she carried food to them in the shadows. She had thought it forgotten, a fleeting act of kindness buried beneath years of resentment from her father. But to Nayati, it was everything. "I could not let you be destroyed by the cruelty of your own blood," he continued, his voice breaking slightly with emotion. "So when he offered you as trade, I took you not to own you, but to honor you. Elena's heart swelled with a mixture of disbelief and awe. The man she had feared as a savage had remembered a kindness she herself had nearly forgotten. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "I never knew they survived." "They did," Nayati said, lowering his head with reverence. "Because of you. My sister called you the angel with wheat in her hands." It was then that Nayati, the warrior feared by so many, sank to his knees before her. Not as a conqueror, not as a captor, but as a man humbled by gratitude. "Forgive the bargain that brought you here," he said. "You are not a prisoner. You are free to leave, or free to stay. But know this, in my heart, you are already honored." Elena's breath caught, her chest aching with a flood of emotions she could not contain. Here she was, sold like an object, discarded by her own blood, and yet cherished by the very people her father despised. The lines of enemy and ally blurred, replaced by something deeper: humanity, compassion, and the quiet truth that kindness sown in secret can return when least expected. She chose to stay. Not because she was bound, but because she was free. Free to learn, free to give, free to love. In time, she and Nayati built a life together, their bond not forged by trade, but by trust and remembrance of a kindness that had defied hatred. The villagers saw her not as an outsider but as a bridge between worlds, proof that compassion could heal wounds no war could mend. Years later, when Elena walked through the fields where wheat swayed golden under the sun, she often thought of the sack of grain that had once marked her as worthless. And she would smile, for it was not the wheat that had defined her fate, but the act of giving it away. Her story lived on, told around fires and whispered into the ears of children, of a woman sold for a sack of wheat, and a warrior who fell to his knees not in victory, but in gratitude. A story that taught them all that no kindness, however small, is ever forgotten, and that even in the harshest betrayals, compassion has the power to transform chains into wings. And so, her life became not a tale of loss, but of triumph, not of being sold, but of being found.